What's up, everyone? Welcome to another edition of the Wake and J College Football Show. Today is the Week 3 preview, which is crazy to say that we're already 3 weeks into the season. Because it did just start, but it really feels like we just were previewing Week 0. So that's absolutely insane. Um, Typical episode today. Get into some news and notes. Get into my P4 QB rankings. We will be obviously previewing games. There is some Thursday and Friday games that we will touch on briefly. And then finishing off with my favorite bets for the weekend. So that's what to expect. Let's not waste any time and let's get right into it and have a great wake and bake sesh. All right, a little bit of news that I want to touch on before we get into everything else. There is going to be, well, it's not official, but there's going to be a new transfer portal window. So the NCAA Oversight Committee voted to move the transfer portal window, which thank God, and I'll get into my thoughts on that in a sec. So this is going to have the portal open on January 2nd instead of being open for basically the whole month of December. This also is going to eliminate the spring portal, which again, thank God, I'm glad. Coaches had already voted unanimously on this earlier this year. Another thing that's being proposed, which I also love, is they are planning on making December a recruiting dead period. Now, I think they're still going to be able to have contact with recruits, but no on-campus visits or anything like that. It's going to be for the most part a dead period, or at least that's what they're proposing. And honestly, I absolutely love this. We already saw it as an issue last year with the college football playoffs. You had Bo Prabula and Preston Stone, who were the backups for SMU and Penn State, transfer out even though their teams were in the college football playoffs, and even though there was a chance that they could get some playing time because they had to get it in the portal to get established with their new team, and so that they could actually be recruited to a new team. This allows coaches to now and also Marshall. This completely different. Marshall had to forfeit their bowl game or give it off to somebody else because they didn't even have enough players to play in the bowl game. So they had to essentially forfeit and let another team play because they just couldn't field the team because of all the guys that left in the portal. So I love this. It needed to be fixed. I also love eliminating that spring portal. It just I hated seeing guys transfer to a team in December, spend the spring there, and then transfer in the spring. It was just getting out of hand. It needed to be fixed. I understand because there's part of me is like, well, why can't they wait until the playoff after the playoffs to open up the portal so that these teams can, if they have anybody entering, can enter. Last year they did give a little bit of a grace period for anybody who was in the playoffs. They didn't have to. They got an extension on when they had to enter the portal. But they can't do it after the playoffs because, believe it or not, these college athletes are college athletes. They are going to classes, and if you do it too late, they still got to get enrolled in their new schools, get signed up for classes, and start attending class in January. So to have it any later than January 2nd makes it difficult. So I get it. It's still while the playoffs are still going on, but it's not before the playoffs start. It's not before this is after every bowl game has been played basically. So I love it. I think it is. I'm not going to say it's perfect yet because we have not experienced it. I'm sure there's some loophole or flaw that we're going to see that could be fixed, but I love the direction it's headed because it needed some revamping, and this is exactly what it needed. One other thing I'm going to touch on briefly too when it comes to news, I almost so when I recorded on Sunday morning, I had not yet really looked at the AP poll. I don't even think it was out yet. Um, there's been a lot of discussion over the last few days on the AP poll, and I for one am not a fan. I don't even I use it obviously as a metric, but it's pointless. If we're being really honest here, to do an AP poll anytime before October is pointless. There's absolutely no point. So I see both sides of to what everybody was freaking out about. I see the point of when you had Haley Sawyer go on, and we don't even know. I don't even know what podcast it was or radio show or whatever it was that she was joining. But there was a video going around of Haley Sawyer, you know, talking about how she's a voter and how it's so fun and all this stuff, which I'm sure it is. I'm sure it's a blast. But then people started roasting her because she had Florida moving up 2 spots after they just lost to USF. And you know where they had where she had USF? Unranked. Now, I don't want to unfairly attack Haley Sawyer because she doesn't deserve it because she is not the only one that had a bad ballot, and actually, hers wasn't even the worst. I have seen, and I should have written and writ, put their names down, um, but I didn't. She's just the one that was going viral, so that's why I'm pointing her out, which I guess is unfair to her. Maybe I'll figure out who the other ones are and give them a shout out in the next episode. With the AP voters, there are so many bad ballots out there. If you ever listen to other college football podcasts, you know, some of them will go through and point some of them out and call them out on the show. Uh, it's when the AP poll would decide the national champion, very important. And if this type of stuff was happening then, you would want to get that person out as quickly as possible. Now, does the AP poll have a somewhat of a factor on how the college football playoff committee, picks? Sure. I'm sure it gives them some sort of guideline, but they're not doing a college football playoff selection show until what is it, October, November? At that point, we pretty much know who the top 25 teams are at that point. I mean, and by that point, you will see the AP poll will start to get better. Guys, we're still so early in the season. Uh, we're still guessing. Yes, we have a sample size, but it's a very small sample size. So a lot of this is just guessing. That's why doing a preseason poll just in general is dumb. A poll shouldn't be done. A top 25 poll should not be done until the middle of October. You could argue the beginning of October, whatever. October's when a top 25 poll should be out because by that point we've got a decent sample size and we kind of have an idea of where these teams are at. Preseason, we're just guessing. The only problem with the AP poll is you got a lot of guys and gals who are beat writers for teams, so that they're focused on their team. So you have them showing up pregame, you have them sitting there for the whole game, watching and taking notes or doing whatever it is that they do, and then they have to go to the press conference after the game, and then they got to make sure that they get out everything that they need to get out, and then they can watch some football. They can't watch every single game and know exactly everything that's going on. So for them to be able to accurately even give a top 25, I mean, it's not easy because they're not watching a lot of the games because they are so focused on their team and they have to be so focused on their team that they can't. They just don't have the time. So, I mean, are there changes that need to happen to the AP poll? Sure. Do they have some influence on the college football playoff committee? Sure. In the end, I guess it doesn't matter because they're not deciding the national championship champions. They used to, they don't anymore. We need to just relax a little bit, but I completely get the frustration. All right, done with that rant. Moving on. Power 4 freshman QB rankings. Um, this week there was some movement. We still got Jaron Sangapulatelli at the top at number 1. I have Drake Lindsay bumping up to number 2. Now, I will admit, putting Drake Lindsay at number 2 was a little bit because they are going head to head this weekend, and whoever wins that matchup is going to be the number 1. That's kind of how I wanted it set up. But you can make an argument that Julian Sane, who I have at 3, could be number 2. He bounced back last week after they played Texas, and he was average to above average. He played lights out against Grambling State. Now, yes, I know it's Grambling, so we can't take a lot from it, but he still went like 18 of 19 or something crazy like that. Coming in at 4, I have Bear Bachmeyer. Yes, he has played inferior opponents, so you expect him to shine, but the dude is playing well, and he's accounted for like 6 or 7 touchdowns, through the air and on the ground. I have CJ Carr dropping to number 5. He didn't play this week. That's really what it came down to. Probably, I guess I could have kept him at 4. I bumped him down to 5. I have Malik Washington coming in at 6. He's played good. Hasn't turned the ball over. Hasn't thrown any interceptions. I guess I don't know about fumbles, but has not thrown any interceptions. 5 touchdowns, thrown for like 500 yards, something like that. Um, he's he's playing good. That's about it. Bryce Underwood, I have dropping down to 7. You could argue that this is a huge overreaction to Oklahoma, and I guess I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you. Um, and I'm not putting all the blame on Bryce Underwood. We'll get into uh, my thoughts and feelings on him. Well, actually, no, we're not previewing Michigan this week. So, Bryce Underwood, not his fault that he played not great against Oklahoma. Uh, I just This was my concern going into the season. I don't think the weapons around him are great. I mentioned last year that was a problem. They were supposed to address it this offseason. I didn't love what they did this offseason to address it, and so far it hasn't been great. So it's not all on Bryce Underwood, so you could argue maybe he should be at 6, maybe he should be at 5, whatever. He's down at 7. And then coming in at number 8 and last place, because I will just say this, Haas Haney out. Since he is injured, he is not going to be in the rankings anymore moving forward until he does come back and take over that starting spot. But Zane Flores comes in at number 8, Oklahoma State quarterback. I mean, just an abysmal performance against Oregon. So uh, that is my power rankings for the freshman quarterbacks. Now, Aaron Philo did start for Georgia Tech this last week, and we will kind of get into that here in a second. Um, if he continues to play, then sure, I will, incorporate him in this. Keelan Russell got some time this weekend because there was a blowout. If he somehow takes the starting job, he will get added into this. Julian Lewis of Colorado, same thing. Once they're starters is when I will incorporate them. Um, when they just make appearances in blowouts, I'm going to pass. All right, enough of that. We'll get into previewing the weekend's games, week 3 games, starting with Thursday. When you're listening to this tonight, NC State and Wake Forest. Wake Forest is a 7.5 point dog at home. Both teams are 2-0 going to this game. Good for you, Wake Forest. Probably pretty close to your limit there. For NC State, CJ Bailey's looked pretty good this year so far. Yes, it's only 2 games. Just remember that. Hollywood Smothers also been very good. But outside of Smothers, they don't really have much in the run game. And defense for them it's been an issue. Game 1 against Eastern Carolina, Katenhauser, I'm not sure how to pronounce his name, threw all over their defense. And then against Virginia last week, they could not stop the run or the pass. It was a shootout. This defense is not good. Now, when it comes to actually getting into the meat of ACC play, I don't know if NC State's offense is going to be good enough to win a shootout every week. So that'll be interesting to see because that defense is not good. And it's going to have to be a shootout every week. Now, Wake Forest, I don't see them as the team that is going to give NC State a run for their money, that NC State's not going to be able to go into a shootout with and win. Wake Forest has played Kennesaw State and Western Carolina. They barely beat Kennesaw State, which was a little concerning. First game of the season, so you kind of want to give them a break. Still concerning. They looked much better against Western Carolina, which I would hope so. The defense, I guess you could say, has looked better than the offense so far, just because the offense did struggle so hard against Kennesaw State. Seeing the competition that they've gone up against and how much they have struggled, and then looking at this NC State team and who they've played and how they've overcome that, I think that NC State wins this one. It makes a lot of sense that Wake is a 7-point dog at home. We've seen enough of Robbie Ashford to know what his ceiling is, and this offense is going to have its ups and downs, it feels like. Um, I think defensively, like I said, it's probably been the best part of Wake Forest so far, but I don't think they're going to be able to stop CJ Bailey or Hollywood Smothers in this one. Moving on to Friday games, Colorado and Houston. Houston is a 4.5 favorite at home. I mean, I was not high on Colorado going into the season. Nothing against Dion. I thought losing Shadur and Travis Hunter was going to be interesting. I also am not high on Caden Salter, so I didn't love that pickup. And so far through 2 games, I'm still not very high on Colorado this year. Now, I said it after the game against Georgia Tech that I didn't think Caden Salter is that good. Um, and then he, I guess, got benched in their win last week. I don't even remember who they played. And Ryan Staub, oh, it was Delaware. Redshirt sophomore Ryan Staub ended up coming in and played great. Julian Lewis got some time too, but Ryan Staub did come in, and then a rumor came out. I want to say it was from On3. Don't quite remember. I should have put that down. But a rumor came out that Ryan Staub is going to get the start over Caden Salter this weekend. Not Julian Lewis. Again, not Caden Salter, but Ryan Staub is getting the start. Now, Dion did come out and said a thing about how nobody just wants to be right, they want to be first, and that rumor is not true, this and that. So it's up in the air. I don't know. Ryan Staub might be the starter. Caden Salter might be the starter. Nobody really knows because there's rumors out there that Staub. Dion says, shut your mouth. So we'll see. Colorado's offensive line, though, continues to be absolutely terrible, so I don't think it really matters who the quarterback's going to be. Against Delaware, peace and love to Delaware, but you should not be allowing 5 sacks and 11 tackles for loss against Delaware. Uh, Colorado's defense also just does not look great either. Against Georgia Tech, they got absolutely destroyed on the grounds, and against Delaware, they got absolutely torched in the passing game. I think this is going to be a very long season for Colorado fans. At this point, I don't know if they're going to make a bowl game, but we'll see. Um, as you can tell, I'm leaning Houston in this one heavy. I'm not giving out any bets for it because it's a Friday night game. I am leaning heavily in Houston's favor. They've gotten off to a 2-0 start. Yes, against Stephen F. Austin. Yes, against Rice. Whatever. Connor Wegman to Tanner Koziel is dirty. It is dangerous. It's going to be a combination that's going to give a lot of teams nightmares. Koziel has 13 receptions so far this year, and the next man up after that is Amari Thomas with 5. Koziel is, and we knew this when he transferred from Wisconsin, and I don't even remember where he was at before Wisconsin. When he transferred to Houston, we all knew, all right, that's the guy. That's what they needed. He's going to be the guy. And so far through 2 games, that's the guy. Now, this is a run first team. I don't know if you know this about Connor Wegman, but he does like to run the ball a lot. He's very good at running the ball. And saw it with Georgia Tech, who has Haynes King, who also is very good at running the ball, likes to run the ball. They run designed runs for him. Colorado got absolutely torched. I imagine that is what's going to happen in this game, and I have Houston winning this one. All right, we got Kansas State at Arizona. Arizona is, well, they opened at as like a 2.5 point favorite at home, or 1.5. Now Kansas State is currently the 1.5 point favorite, which I think is more correct. Um, Kansas State has not been good. I know it. You know it. We've seen it. Um, but having them open as underdogs in this game, I feel like was still a little too extreme. Because as not great as Kansas State has been, I feel like they're still better than Arizona. Um, Now Kansas State is 1-2, lost to Iowa State, lost to Army, and their one win was a very close one against North Dakota. So you could think that I'm absolutely crazy for saying all this. I do still think they're better than Arizona. Um, Arizona, by the way, is 2-0, so good for them. Didn't I guess I did see it coming because they beat Iowa, or not Iowa, Hawaii and Weber State. They better be 2-0. Noah Fafita has looked good, which and he should. Uh, Run game has looked good. Defense has looked solid. But it's two games against two very beatable teams. Now, Kansas State, I think they have the talent to win this game. I think they're going to win this game. But if they want to win this game, one, their run defense needs to continue to be great. They need to get pressure on Fafita. When you get pressure on Fafita, he struggles. Uh, you also fix your third down offense. Oh my goodness, 12 of 35 this season. That is abysmal. They need to get that fixed and quick. Um, yeah, Kansas State in this one. All right, moving on to the noon games on Saturday. We'll start with this one. Don't have a lot to say about it because, well, you'll see. Number four, Oregon against going to Northwestern. Northwestern is a 28.5 point dog at home. And I mean, there's no way this game is close. I mean, maybe Northwestern covers. Maybe if their defense can make a few stops, maybe. I just don't see a possible way that this game is close. Oregon is outscoring their opponents 128 to 16. Now, I guess it was against a very good FCS team and a bottom tier Power 4 team, but Oregon looks way better than I thought they would going into this season. And Northwestern has honestly looked worse than I thought they would look this season. Um, I really don't think we saw Preston Stone struggle against Tulane. He did great against Western Illinois last week, but seeing how he struggled against Tulane, there's no way he's able to get anything going against this Oregon defense. Give me Oregon by a million. Then we got Clemson, number 12, going to Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech is a 3.5 point dog at home. And I said this for every Georgia Tech game last year. I'm going to say it for every Georgia Tech game this year. If Haynes King plays, Georgia Tech has a chance. Now, he was a late scratch last week against Gardner Webb. Like I mentioned earlier, Aaron Philo did get the start. Uh, so that is a little concerning. Now, I feel like Brent Key has always been pretty secretive about Haynes King's health. Um, I wouldn't be shocked if against Gardner Webb they were like, yeah, let's just say it's an injury and hold you out and keep you fresh for when we play Clemson. I wouldn't be shocked. Um, it just feels like he's always been very quiet. I Most teams are, and I get that. It just feels like he's been extra sneaky about Haynes King. Maybe that's just me overlooking or overthinking. Um, but I'm going to say for this game, if Haynes King plays, they have a chance to beat Clemson. Clemson has not looked good. Defense has looked good. Offense has not. They struggled against LSU, which is fine. You know, we thought LSU's defense might be really good. Well, then we saw the offense struggle against, was it Troy? Um, Maybe LSU's defense isn't as good as we thought, just because of how much Clemson struggled. So this is really the game that we see how good is Clemson, how good is that offense, because the defense is good, and we know that. Um, Preseason, I did have Georgia Tech winning this game, and I think whoever wins this game, the outlook on their season is significantly higher. Obviously, I guess that was a dumb thing to say because if Clemson loses this game, it's not looking good. But if Georgia Tech wins this game, it's looking great. Uh, but I did have Georgia Tech winning this game preseason, and after 2 games into the season, if Haynes King plays, I still feel pretty confident that they win this game. All right, we're not going to spend much time on this one either. Wisconsin at number 19, Alabama. Alabama is a 20.5 point favorite at home. Wisconsin has gotten off to a slow start. Billy Edwards got hurt. Unsure if he's going to play this week. Hurt in that first game. So then the offense really struggled in that first game against Miami of Ohio. Um, Last week against Middle Tennessee, started off slow and then finally started to click and played pretty well. So far, in 4 halves of football, they have played well in one of them. So they got to get that figured out. But the defense looks pretty good. So that's a good sign for them, I guess. We all saw what happened with Alabama at Florida State. Got absolutely demolished. Then they go and take out all their frustration on ULM last week and won like 70 something to nothing. So they're feeling a little better about themselves this week. Not fully back, but they're feeling better. Um, I don't think Wisconsin has a shot. I was trying to think if there's like a way Wisconsin can win. I guess if they could find a way to run the ball all over Alabama like Florida State did, sure. I just don't. I don't really like Wisconsin's running backs, if I'm going to be honest with you. I'm sure Ty Simpson's going to have maybe some struggles with this Wisconsin defense, so it might not be the biggest blowout. But I feel like this is going to be a game where even if it's only like 21-7 or something like that, you never really feel like Alabama was in danger of just losing control. Uh, kind of like like Wisconsin might cover, but you'll just never feel in danger. Like Oklahoma and Michigan last week, you never actually thought Oklahoma was going to lose. Moving on to the afternoon games, we've got number 6 Georgia at number 15 Tennessee. Tennessee is a 4.5 point dog at home. I mean, let's just call it official. Tennessee is upgraded at quarterback. I think it's official because this team, this offense specifically, is really starting to look like the 22 team that beat Alabama for the first time in however many years, and uh, looked like they had a Heisman quarterback till he got hurt. Looked like the playoff team until they lost to South Carolina. But the offense that won Jalen Hyatt the Bolitnikoff win, he hasn't done anything in the NFL after that. It's starting to look a lot more like that 22 team. And the only difference between Tennessee this year and that 22 team is their defense is significantly better this time around. The defense then was above average. Last year and this year, the defense is very good. Offense looks like it's taken a step forward this year. Tennessee could win this game. They really could. That playing at Neyland, it's going to be rough for Georgia. That being said, though, Tennessee is without their top 2 corners, which is not ideal. Um, Defense is still good enough to keep this close. Offense has to be good enough. They have to be better than they've been in recent years against Georgia. I will say, I don't know why. Maybe this is just the national media getting at me. It just feels like Georgia is not as scary this year as they've been in recent years. Doesn't mean that they aren't good, because obviously they're still very good. Just it's Kirby Smart. He's always going to have a good team. Um, I don't know Gunnar Stockton. He's looked fine. He hasn't looked amazing. He's looked fine. Run game's been good. They just haven't been whoa out of this world, and I guess maybe that's it. And it's only been 2 weeks, and it's been against 2 inferior opponents, so I am probably overreacting. It just feels like Georgia's not as scary this year. Um, Now, defense has looked very good for Georgia. So far through 2 games again against much inferior opponents. They are allowing only like 2.2 yards per carry, something like that, which Tennessee has a three-headed rushing attack. They need to get that moving if they want this offense to flow, to be explosive, and they got to get more than 2 yards per carry against Georgia. In the last 4 meetings between these two, Tennessee has not scored more than 17 points in any of those matchups, most of them scoring like 10 or 13. In Georgia, the least amount they've scored in a game was 27, typically scoring in the 30s or even 40s. Um, I think one or both of those breaks this year. I think either Tennessee scores 20 plus or Georgia scores less than 27 or both. Either way, I think this is a little bit of a defensive battle, but Tennessee's offense is more improved than it's been. I don't give me Tennessee to cover. I'm not going to pick them to win. Give me them to cover. All right, moving on, we've got Oregon State at number 21, Texas Tech. Texas Tech is a 24.5 point favorite at home. I mean, I kind of feel like Oregon State's worse than I thought they were going to be this year, so makes sense. Um, they lost to Cal to start the season, and I guess that was a game where you don't really realize is Oregon State worse than I thought they were going to be, or is Cal better than I thought? So I feel like we still need another week to kind of gather that, but that game kind of made you think it could be either way. Uh, they also lost to Fresno State, 36-27. Now that loss, I feel like Oregon State plays that game one more time. and they win. Because if you look, two of the touchdowns that Fresno State had, one was a punt return, which I mean those are hard to replicate unless you're South Carolina, and the other one have been was a pick six that was thrown. Take away those, Oregon State wins this. So I guess I'm leaning a little more Oregon State, or it's a little column A, little column B. Oregon State might not be as bad as they looked after Cal, but maybe Cal is not quite as great as we thought. It just happened to be the first week for both. I'm not sure. This week will give us a better idea. Uh, Texas Tech has rolled through their first two games. Arkansas, Pine Bluff, and Kent State absolutely rolling on offense, absolutely rolling on defense. Um, I guess you could say that this might be a game where Texas Tech is looking ahead to next week when they play Utah. So maybe Oregon State keeps this close for a half before they wake up and be like, oh, wait, guys, we got to win this game before we focus on Utah. I don't know. Either way, I think that's the only shot that Oregon State has, is that maybe Texas Tech is sleeping at the wheel a little bit. But I have Texas Tech winning. USC at Purdue. Purdue is a 21.5 point dog at home. I mean, all I'm going to really say on this game is congrats to Purdue for doubling your win total from last year. So that's great. Proud of you guys. Um, USC has looked pretty good. Now, they haven't really played anybody worth anything, so, taking it as a grain of salt for now. But Jaden Mayava has looked great. Defense has been good enough, I guess. But USC has looked good. They're outscoring their opponents so far this season 132 to 33. Uh, I don't I don't really see a way that Purdue loses this game. I mean, USC loses this game to Purdue. Uh, does Purdue cover? Maybe, maybe. But I think USC doesn't really get challenged this week, and I think next weekend is where we might see that challenge with Michigan State. All right. I love having rivalry games early in the season. Pitt at West Virginia. West Virginia is a 7.5 point dog at home. I mean, I, like everyone else, had very low expectations for West Virginia this year, um, but they might be a little worse than expected. They beat Robert Morris in week one, which good, you should. But then they lost an absolutely ugly game to Ohio last week. Ohio dominated the time of possession. West Virginia had 250 total yards, and they were 2 of 13 on third down against Ohio. Now, Ohio's a good MAC team, so I don't want to poo-poo them. Um, but you shouldn't be losing to a MAC team. Just an overall terrible game. Pitt, on the other hand, through two games, has looked great, offensively and defensively. Now, granted, Duquesne in Central Michigan, but they've still looked really good. I think Pitt being a 7.5 point favorite on the road in a rivalry game tells you all you need to know about West Virginia. I don't think West Virginia has a shot, and I think this one's a blowout. Um, a game that I did not think I would be previewing before the season. Number 18 USF at number 5 Miami. Miami is a 17.5 point favorite at home. Really, all I want to say on this game, because I just want to keep tooting my horn on. I had USF as a top 25 team when I did my season preview. 2 games into the season, they're already in the top 25, so I feel like that's a pat on my back. Um, I can't say that they don't have a shot in this one. I just think Miami has a better defense than one they've played so far. The defense has played great in 7 of 8 quarters so far this season. Take out that fourth quarter against Notre Dame, and they are amazing. Um, Carson Beck looks great. He looks confident. He looks happy. Looks healthy. Byron Brown has been great. I just think this is the game that Miami wins. I think USF goes down in this one, and that doesn't change that they should be a top 25 team. They should be, even if they lose to Miami, because they still proven that they should be there. But I do think Miami wins this one. All right, moving on to evening and late night games. Arkansas at Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a 7.5 point favorite at home. If this was in Arkansas, I would lean Arkansas to win this one, but because it's at Ole Miss, I think Ole Miss might cover this. They didn't look great against Kentucky, but for whatever reason, Lane Kiffin struggles playing Kentucky. So I'm not going to hate on Ole Miss too much because of that game yet, because they always seem to struggle with them. Um, Now, Arkansas has started the year very strong, outscoring their opponents like 108 to 20, 21, something like that. Taylon Green has been great, thrown for 561 yards, run for nearly 200. He's got 11 total touchdowns, 10 through the air. Last year, he threw for a career high 15 touchdowns, and he's already got 10 this season through 2 games. So he is on pace to have a career year, which is great for Arkansas and is great for him. That being said, on the road at Ole Miss, I think that's going to be a tough one because I also just don't love Arkansas in general. I like Taylon Green a lot. I just don't love the rest of Arkansas. I think Ole Miss wins this one. Florida at LSU. LSU is the number 3 team in the nation, up 7.5 point favorite at home. I mean, we may have seen the end of Billy Napier's tenure at Florida last week when they lost to USF at home. Still early in the season, they may turn this around, but they have an absolute gauntlet coming up. I'm leaving out the bye weeks and a couple of the games against lesser teams. But they have to play LSU, Miami, Texas, Texas A&M, Georgia, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Florida State. Yikes! The way they've looked so far this season and seeing what's coming up, it was already going to be a tough season for them. But everything we've seen, it's just going to get worse. It feels like. Uh, LSU defensively has looked great. Offensively, though, feels like they haven't been as good as we thought they were going to be this year. They struggled against Clemson, which fine. We think Clemson's defense is pretty good, but they didn't look necessarily explosive or great against Louisiana Tech. So it's still early. Maybe it all clicks this week at home against Florida for a big night game. But yeah, even if the offense is still lacking in this game, the defense is good enough to win this game for LSU. I don't see Florida winning this one. Number 16, Texas A&M at number 8, Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a 6.5 point favorite at home. Well, I have both of these teams making the playoffs, but I do have coming into the season. I did have Texas A&M winning this game. Um, and I still feel pretty confident that they can win this game. Now, Notre Dame having that bye week after week 1 against Miami is huge for them. I don't know how they swung that, but that's huge for getting your redshirt freshman quarterback ready for Texas A&M. And if Texas A&M wants to win this game, we know they can run the ball. They got an experienced offensive line. They got a 3-headed rushing attack if you count Reed in that. But you brought in Craver and Concepcion for a reason. To elevate that passing game, to give Reed some weapons. If you want to win this game, you have to be able to throw the ball. Notre Dame does have a great secondary, so it's not going to be easy, and you don't have to do anything spectacular. You just have to keep them honest so they don't stack the box. I think we saw CJ Carr play terrible for 3 quarters and then turn it on that 4th quarter against Miami. If it's all of a sudden clicking for him that quickly and he plays lights out in this game like we saw in that 4th quarter, then I guess Texas A&M probably doesn't have a chance. But I don't expect that because he is still a freshman. He's still going to make freshman mistakes. So because of that, I still think Texas A&M can steal this one here, but they have to get that passing game going. Vandy at number 11, South Carolina. South Carolina is a 4.5 point favorite at home. Both of these teams have already played a common opponent. Virginia Tech. South Carolina, neutral site, opened the season with a 24-11 win. Take away that punt return touchdown, and it was a 17-11 win. That's not great. And then Vandy beat Virginia Tech last weekend 44-20. They were down 20-10 at half, and then turned it on in that second half. I think first half they had like 4 drives, and 2 of them ended with turnovers. But the other 2 they scored on, and that should have told you everything you needed to know, that if they don't turn the ball over, they're getting what they want, and that's exactly what they did that second half. Now, South Carolina. After that Virginia Tech game, I had the questions of, is Virginia Tech's defense just that good, or is South Carolina's offense not that good? And I was kind of leaning South Carolina's offense not being that good. And after this last weekend, I think that all but confirms it because Vandy put up 44 on Virginia Tech, and South Carolina's offense could not get it going against South Carolina State. They beat South Carolina State 38 to 10. 21 of those 38 points came from special teams and defense. The offense was 3 of 12 on third downs, 250 total yards, and Lenora Sellers was 11 of 19 for 128 yards and 1 touchdown. They need to figure some things out and fast. And unfortunately, Vanderbilt is no longer the team that you can use as that game to get your offense figured out. South Carolina State was that team last week, and you didn't get it figured out. Uh, the fact that this is being played in South Carolina makes me hesitant to pick Vandy, but I'm gonna do it. Vandy comes away with the win. They just look so much better than South Carolina has looked this season. Playing at Columbia, at South Carolina is difficult, especially at night, but I'm gonna back Vandy and Diego Pavia on this one. All right, Boston College at Stanford. Stanford is a 12.5 point dog at home. I think Boston, and this is crazy to say, but I think Boston College only being 12.5 point favorites on the road against Stanford is disrespectful to Boston College just because of how bad Stanford is. Um, this game, it's going to be insane to watch because you're going to get Ben Gulbranson, who has been the worst quarterback in the Power Four this year, and then you're going to get Lonergan, who has looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the Power Four this year. Lonergan has 650 plus passing yards, 75% of his passes are being completed, 8 touchdowns, no interceptions. For comparison, Ben Gulbranson, 251 yards, so that's over 400 less than Lonergan. 50% completion, 0 touchdowns to Lonergan's 8, and he's thrown 3 interceptions to Lonergan's 0. Um, Not great. Stanford opened the season against 2 freshman quarterbacks, and both of those freshman quarterbacks have outplayed Gulbranson. It's just been so ugly. Um, Boston College has to get their run game figured out, and honestly, I think this is the week that they do it, or that they can do it. Um, at some point, it's going to bite them in the ass if they don't get it figured out. It's not going to be this week, because Boston College wins by a million. But this is the week that they should start trying to figure out what's wrong with that run game and get it going. All right, last game. Minnesota at Cal. Cal is a 2.5 point dog at home. This is going to be the showdown of 2 stud freshman quarterbacks. Jaron Sungapulatelli has looked awesome through 2 games. Now, granted, one of those games was Texas Southern, and the other one was Oregon State, who we're not sure yet if they're actually really bad or not, so we'll see. But this is easily going to be his hardest test. Um, that being said, on the other side, Drake Lindsey, this might not be his hardest test. It is because he's going on the road. You could argue Buffalo's defense is as good or close to what Cal's is compared to Northwestern State, obviously. Um, it's hard in the fact that this is his first road game. I just don't know if the defense is going to be the biggest test for him so far. Um, Outside of Cal, though, they got hit so hard outside of Jaron Sungapulatelli, they got hit hard in the portal, and so there's a lot of still unknowns around that offense. But so far, he has looked like the real deal. Um, the one thing that does make me a little nervous going into this game, Darius Taylor is questionable, which if he doesn't play, that hurts a lot. I do think there's enough depth in this running back room to uh, still be successful. And I do think Drake Lindsey and the wide receivers are good enough to be successful. As we know, the defense is obviously going to be successful because they're very good this year. Um, but not having Darius Taylor, if he doesn't play, does hurt. But give me the Gophers in this one. I do think it's going to be close. I do think they probably cover, um, but I do think the Gophers win this one. So that is my Week 3 preview. A lot of sneaky good games this weekend. Not because I'm a Minnesota fan, but that Minnesota Cal game is going to be pretty exciting, and gonna have to be up late for that one. But yeah, moving on to my 5 favorite picks this weekend. Okay, so I am going to do. I have a whole list here, and I got to pick out my favorite ones here, and it's just so difficult. Give me Notre Dame under 28.5 points. I don't think they score that much. Texas A&M has a good defense. I don't think the offense for Notre Dame is good enough to put up 28 more than 28. Um, Give me Pitt minus 7.5. I just don't think I just don't think West Virginia is very good. I want to make sure to avoid and I said I was going to try to do this. I'm going to try to avoid putting bets that I also have the Power Four parlay on. Once we get into conference play, that Power Four moneyline parlay becomes a lot easier to separate from my bets. So we got Pitt minus 7.5, Notre Dame under 28.5. Give me Vander. No, we're not doing it. Well, give me Tennessee plus 4.5. I think Tennessee covers. Give me Oregon minus 28.5. There's no way that Northwestern covers that one. And then I'm also going to take Texas A&M and Notre Dame, a second bet from that one. No, we're not doing that. Give me Cal under 20.5 total points. And then for the parlay, give me Minnesota, give me Pitt, give me Arizona State, and give me Vandy, all to win at plus 552. For anybody that's about to get upset at me for putting Arizona State in here, I only put teams that are playing on Saturday. I needed a Big 12 team. All the best picks for Big 12 teams are playing on Thursday and Friday. The Big 12 teams are either too heavily favored or there's no way they're going to win. Arizona State was the best one that I could add. I'm sorry. It gets better once we get further into the season, this Power 4 parlay. Anyways, thank you all for joining me. Enjoy the football this weekend. It should be pretty good. I'm excited for it. I mean, I'm always excited for it, but this is a sneaky good weekend in my opinion. Um, but yeah, enjoy the football. Happy betting. I'll talk to you guys on Monday to recap week 3.